please know that this clinic online will be audio and video recorded, and it will be published actually on FIBA and Lithuanian Basketball Federation websites. So we are actually also kindly asking all the participants to mute their microphones during the clinic. And yeah, Ramūnas, please, the floor is yours. We can start the clinic here.
So hello everybody who has joined to our seminar, Talent, Criteria and Selection in Basketball, organized by Lithuanian Basketball Federation and Krepšinio namai in cooperation with FIBA. And we are very happy that Nenad Trunič, a professor of Singidunum University, Serbia, and FIBA lecturer, agreed to participate in the seminar and share his huge experience with Lithuanian coaches. The topic of today's seminar is very relevant in finding young talent and preparing them to top-level teams. No doubt, it's very important to know selection methods, principles, and criteria when selecting young basketball players. I am probably not mistaken in saying that selection in basketball is one of the guarantees of success. Nenad Trunič has huge experience in this field, both as a coach and a sports scientist, and I am sure that Nenad's knowledge and experience will be very useful for our coaches. So, short introducing. Our time is limited, so sorry for maybe too short introducing. Hello, Nenad.
Hello.
We are very happy to see you.
Thank you, my pleasure too.
And we are very thankful to you for your agreeing to cooperate with us. And we're waiting for your lecture with big impatience. So, because our time is limited, and we want to leave more time for discussions, so let's start, and we give you a floor.
Okay, thank you very much. So, first of all, I would like to send you regards from FIBA Europe Coaching Department, because, as Mr. Ramūnas said, this webinar is organized in collaboration with Lithuanian Basketball Federation and FIBA Europe Coaching Department, and Mr. Michael Schwartz, like head of national team department over there. So it's my pleasure too, because usually we are meeting on the court, Lithuania and Serbia. So finally, after so many years being a lecturer for FIBA, I have opportunity, except for some university collaboration with Kauno Collegius couple of years ago. So I'm very happy to be here with you, and I hope that all information which I'm going to share with you, as Mr. Ramūnas said, can be useful for you in your practice process and talent adaptation and selection. So just short introduction, not because I want to talk about me, but I had experience as a national team player before, playing together with Divac, Kukoc, Raja, Đorđević, one of the greatest generations ever in Serbian basketball or ex-Yugoslavian basketball. So I was coached by Ivković, Obradović, Pešić, Vujošević. So all the stuff together with my university background and also FIBA Europe coaching background, as well as my experience doing twice coordinator of youth program in Serbian Basketball Federation and director of all youth categories in Iranian Basketball Federation. So all knowledge which I collect, I will try to put in next two clinics, of course, related to people. So today's clinic and next week clinic are practically connected. We decide together. I am happy because FIBA Europe and Lithuanian Federation understand importance and volume of that topic, practically how to select and how to develop basketball players, young basketball players in order to create top basketball players in the future. So also my doctor thesis was related in this topic, more than 600 pages related to this. So I tried, as time is giving to me, to share with you all information related to that stuff. So let's start with our stuff, just to check. Okay. So first of all, as usual, I'm starting to make some questions, and I'm trying to answer on those questions during my session. So which are selection criteria for top basketball players? How to select players? Which kind of diagnostic procedures we can use and which kind can be effective? And of course, coaching evaluation of prospective basketball players, because usually going back in the past in ex-Yugoslavian countries, and so we had very good selection program, but of course it's very important to understand that coaches are just one of the person who can select the players, not only person who can select. And of course, how to develop those selected players, because we can lose them on the road. So even if they find top players, we can also lose them on the road if our development or practice program is not so good. So thinking about some, let's call it excellent department in clubs, or especially in federations, which kind of pillars must be and which kind of organization must be in that process, because probably this is most complex process in basketball. All of us already knows, or we can find a lot of information on the net, discussing with the older coaches, with the traditional basketball countries, or you are Lithuania and Serbia, but we need something more for talent ID process and selection. So excellent department, or department made by the experts, should be oriented to identify, select interesting guys, then selection. So there is a difference between talent identification and selection, because identification is just kids who can be interesting to playing basketball on top level, and selection is then with different level of selection by age of players, and also by different criteria in under 12, under 14, under 16, under 18. And then we have in basketball also different criteria related to the position on the court from 1 to 5. So all the process must be led by experts, so professional guidance of the player, quality development. Once selected players, we should provide for them all conditions to develop them in the right way. Then, which is very important today, and very difficult today, because today, unfortunately, internet is going to educate young athletes, young players. So we should find our position in their development, in their education, in order to teach them that they should. I'm always saying that stuff because I have also son playing basketball in top level, that we should teach them that they should behave as a champion before they become champions. So when they are young, we should educate them about way of life, about motivation stuff, about consistency in their practice, in order to become probably good players in the future, because we never can be sure that they will become. Even with top level of selection process, we cannot be sure. Then, of course, we should prepare players for local or domestic and international basketball career, because practically from under 16, we have international criteria for the players, because from under 16, they are starting with serious international competition. So it's very important to check also level of the players in other countries, especially top countries like Lithuania, Spain, France, Serbia, in order to see where we are. Of course, that is going to be changed generation by generation, but we should look, check, and try to use something which is good also from other people's experience. Then, of course, sports science, which become very important, because I'm always saying that we need to use sports science with purpose. So coaches should be more educated in order to understand how to use scientific results for their program, for development of the players. And of course, create some kind of career model for prospective players, or their road, what they should do. Being a little bit simpler, you can see here some kind of organization chart. So we have different process in organization, because management is so important. So we have players development process, organization development, so to provide all facilities, all equipment, and all personnel to lead that process. Experts development. This webinar is one part of it's take part of that process, because I'm always saying that most of the clubs and most of the federations are doing mistake looking just for talented players. But in all the systems, in all federations, in all the clubs, when I was involved, and also in FIBA, we are insisting on coaches selection. Because if coaches are not educated, if coaches are without knowledge how they can recognize and how they can select top basketball players, this is impossible. So first, investment supposed to be development of coaches and other experts from the fields closer to the basketball. So only doing all those stuff we can provide, and we can expect high performance system and high performance of our players. Then this going deeper just for development of the players and talent identification. So we have 3 pillars, as you can see: talent ID, basketball methodology. So in basketball methodology means practice methodology, specific by age, by gender, by all the stuff, also related to some national differences, because there are different countries, different cultures. So I'm very happy to be with you, because you are basketball country, one of the couple of countries in the world when basketball is sport number 1. So then sport management, because without good management, nothing to do, especially for countries like Lithuania and Serbia, because we cannot compete with Turkey, with Italy, with Spain, with money. So we should find a way to beat them and to compete with them also with less resources. So that means that our personnel should be better, and our kids should be selected in different way in order to be ready to compete with other clubs. But this is also some part of political question. So players development system, this is practical introduction in both topics, today and next week topics. So we have talent ID. Today I'm going to talk more about that stuff, and development of the players for the next week. So talent ID, biosocial aspects of the players, so physical, technical, tactical, psychological, basketball, so technical stuff, then development of basketball skills and development of other abilities. Of course, we are saying other abilities, but we know that we cannot play basketball without good bodies, without good constitution, without good physical preparation, without right psychological approach and psychological profiles of the players. And of course, social involvement or social background is very important. So practically doing that stuff, we have goals and we have tasks to complete. So creating and developing players, create international criteria of excellence, to use knowledge, so innovative approach, all the stuff, to create database or evidence based also on practical experience, not only evidence based on scientific research, which is something missed in the past. Because if you are asking me about ex-Yugoslavia basketball school, we can discuss, but we cannot find so many tasks and so many stuff on the paper. Not so many books, so many experience of the coaches, not related only to scientific research, but also coaching stuff. So we cannot find 1,000 pages related to basketball from previous experience from the past. So this is probably missed part, and I think that we should, if we didn't start still now, we should start building our database in order to have something to compare and something to improve in the future. So hard and smart work, which is very important for countries like Lithuania and Serbia because less of resources, as I already said. Create independent system in person. When I'm saying independent, I'm thinking that experts must do their stuff. So if you have expertise to do something, first of all, federation, and then after clubs, we cannot be influenced by some directors who are discussing just about money or about some influence of agents or something else. This part is existing part of basketball today, but especially in talent ID and selection. So we cannot let them to jump inside, because if all their jump or their intervention inside is not with right interest, our interest should be basketball. Our interest should be talent ID, finding the players And even without them, this process is very difficult and very complex. So think if you have some lateral winds making your life much more difficult. Of course, long-term approach, because I'm always saying to my students and to coaches that basketball is not event, basketball is process. It takes time to develop players, first of all, to select them and then to develop them. So it takes long time. So we should decide and we should define long-term goals and short-term goals. Of course, winning philosophy, because all of us are educated, and especially in your and my country, to win. So if we are not winners, we are nothing. So think about it. Practically going better, going forward in this situation, if you can get better, talent ID process, recruitment of personal performance people, which is very, very important, as I already say, because coaches without knowledge, they cannot recognize, they cannot develop talented players. It's the same if you're going to give Ferrari to people without driving license. So, but much more difficult and consequences tough after that. Then players' performance assessment, how to check, how to evaluate their level. Then coaching job, exclusively coaching job, training program and periodization of the program for different age group, for different gender, for different type of players, because usually top prospect players, they are not usual guys or girls. They are different from different fields. So our job is also to make individual practice program, individual periodization for the players with some specific gifts, with specific talent in order to develop them. Then how to check their development, but also coaching job, training monitoring system. We should test players, but we should test ourselves first. So I will share with you my experience when I bring the first time Serbian national team and I invite my colleague psychologists to test players. First goal was to test me and to test coaching staff, because we are also important. So because if we are not ready for that job, nothing to do with talented players, we will destroy them instead to develop them. Then other stuff not related to the basketball, to the courts, like nutritional strategies, recovering procedures, psychological care of the players, injury rehabilitation system, and of course, as I already mentioned, education of the athletes about appropriate lifestyle. Practically, this is the road to bring some excellence, excellent players, some excellence in our job. As I said before, laser targeting, so individual approach, especially to talented guys, because you cannot treat well Sabonis, Divac when they were 15 as some other guys. So it's clean and it's clear. Then, of course, as we are doing in our countries, high volume and high intensity of training, but smart practice, because we cannot destroy the players. You know, we have for sure experience in your country, in my country too, that some talented guys are destroyed because of bad coaches, bad coaching methodology. And of course, take care of details, because details are going to bring the glory. As Coach Pešić is saying, details are not important while we are talking about details. These details are making difference between coaches, between players. So from the beginning, we should be ready to think about it. Summary of the task at the beginnings: high quality professional work and great experts, professional conditions, so all good facilities, scientific support, outstanding infrastructure, and of course, most talented players in the end. It's too easy to say them to do. Then now we are jumping inside our topic. So type of selection in basketball, we have different level of the selection. First of all, we have initial selection. I think in Lithuania, it's same like in Serbia, like in most countries in the Europe, especially. We have consensus that kids are starting playing basketball when they are starting to go into school. So 6-7 years is the first kick of selection of talent identification, which we can do. So we have initial selection. We have then by categories, under 12, under 14, under 16. In under 16, we are going to add selection criteria by position and extra selection criteria by international standards, because we have under 16 European Championship. So our job from the previous, let's say, 6 years, from 8 to 16, or 10 years from 6 to 16, must be paid with some good players, with some good results in under 16. Of course, it's not possible to make it all the time because of different players, different generations, but definitely in under 16, selection criteria and selection process become more tough, more rigid, because as I said before, we have selection criteria by position on the team from 1 to 5, but also selection criteria by international standards, which is tough job for federation, but this is only job to do. So then again, we have under 18, usually top players from under 18, they are already knocking on the door on the senior national team, but how to develop them, how to teach them, how to give them chance. I will talk more next Wednesday about that stuff. So what is the talent, first of all, because where we are talking about the talent, what is the talent? Practically, talent is some possibility of players to be successful in some activity in general, for painting, for drawing, for singing, or for us, for basketball. Of course, talent has complex nature. So there is not so easy to say this is talented player or not. Because there are some characteristics, some given characteristics, some genetically given characteristics, and there are some partially hidden at the early age. But from the other side, there are early indicators of talent. Practically, we should understand that talent can be specific for some performance, for certain performance for us, for basketball, but also thinking about overall talent for basketball, we have some people, some players, boys, girls, who are more talented for shooting, for court vision, for passing, for defense, for being good team member. So also over there, we should consider that not all the players can be talented for everything. Okay, there are Sabonis, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, some people who are talented for everything because they have multiple talent, but not all the players and not all the generation can be like this. So when we should start with talent ID process? I think immediately from the first practice, because there are even at early age some indicators that kids can be interesting as a basketball players, as a good basketball players. What we should check and what we should look for from the first practice. Of course, we are not going to test them. Of course, we are not going to test their physical qualities. We are not going to put weights on them. Of course, we are not going to test them psychologically, but because probably some of them they don't know to run, to read, and they know to write. But from the first practice, we can recognize how quick kids are learning, because this is first sign of talent. Then how they can imitate moves when coach or some other demonstrator or some older player are going to show to them some basketball skill, how quick they learn and how well they imitate those moves. I already discussed, and I saw here also in the list of participants some coaches from FISSC. Let me share with you, and I say already during FISSC, FIBA Europe Coaching Certificate Program, one great example about it. So I remember in 1985, they start select players for under 16 Serbia national team, ex-Yugoslavia national team. So Divac was a big guy without any basketball knowledge, without knowing how to run, smoking 2 packages of cigarettes per day. But on the practice, and this is really true story from our practice, Coach Pešić was coach over there. So I remember one great example of which is going to confirm my opinion about it. So in the morning, we have on the preparation for European Championship. So in the morning, Coach Pešić showed to him some skill, technique, how to receive the ball on one leg and how to shoot, to make hook shot after that. So the same day, we play friendly game, control game against local team, and he scored 12 points using that movement. He saw that movement first time in the morning, so he used it immediately in afternoon session. Probably because of that, he earned a lot of money. Some other guy who was over there in the team, of course, I'm not going to say the names because it's bad example. When he started using that move after 2 years, we put the towels in the air on the game. So this is the difference between extremely talented players, also with some limitation, as Divac has limitation, for example, in physical stuff, and some other players who are not talented because they cannot learn well, they cannot imitate moves, and they cannot recognize game situation where they can use those moves. So this is first sign of talent, and I think that we can start teaching kids really from the first practice. Why we are doing selection and talent identification in basketball? Which are the goals? So first of all, we need, because we can change the life of the kids if we are saying to them that they are talented or not. To kids and their families, it's not correct to be wrong, because probably if you are saying to kids and to families that they are interesting, probably they will put a lot of efforts, time efforts, economic effort to push those boys and girls to become players. And if we are making big mistake at the beginning, we are going to destroy also some families. Then after that, because basketball is team sport, we should think how to develop players in the team environment, because it's not same psychological profile for tennis and for basketball. It's not same psychological profile of Sabonis and Novak Djokovic, because individual sport is something else, team sport is something else. Then how to select team, players for the team, for the national team, for example. As you know, basketball team is not group of 12 best players, but is group of 12 players who can work in the best way together. So this is something else. So we should find key players, and we should find also players who can support them, and then backup players who can give some good contribution to the team. So this is also some part of talent, because we cannot have 12 stars in the team. How many points we need to score if we have 12 talents in the team? 400 points per game. So it's not possible. We have not five balls to put. So it's very important. Of course, all those stuff are related also to the national team. Which benefits we have in selection, in talent ID in selection process? First of all, we are avoiding to waste time with boys and girls who are not talented. Then once kids are selected to be a part of some process, national team camps, national teams in under 14, 15, 16, we increase their interest for basketball, because of course we are going to convince them that they are possessing some superior abilities to be there. So probably if you are saying to someone that he is good, he will feel more confident doing that stuff, and probably he will put more effort to develop. Also for kids, it's important, because when they are seeing that they are better than other kids from their group, they are selected. Of course, that is going to improve also their motivation approach to the practice, which is very, very important part of development of the young players. So then, of course, selecting good kids, it's going to improve also scientific results, because if you are working with top players, also you are going to raise the level of expectations, the level of criteria for the future. So it's not easy, but this is the only thing what we can do. As I said before, only experts can lead talent ID and selection process. So not experts only from basketball, but also the experts from different fields, like doctors from various medicine fields, biomechanics, kinesiologists, psychologists, nutritionists, so conditioning, conditioning coach. So all experts must be involved in that process, because most of the coaches are not capable to recognize all signs of talent, and also to develop talent, and also to recognize some specific gift for some boys and girls who can be developing top level performance. So as I said before, genius players or especially talented players, they could not be recognized by the coach with low level of the knowledge, anticipation, and experience. Practically, team staff must be made by different experts. It's too easy to say than to do, especially because of financial restrictions, but definitely we should consider those stuff, and we should try to organize, especially national teams in clubs too, like in Žalgiris, in Lietuvos Rytas, in some top clubs. We should try to organize all the stuff around and all the activities centered to the players' development. This is very important. Here you can see another experience I remember in 87, 88, when Tony Kukoc signed for Chicago Bulls. He told me that immediately they gave to him 6 coaches. That was big surprise, because in ex-Yugoslavia, I think also in Lithuania, and that time it was just one coach who was guru of the players, which was very good, just to say, because a lot of great coaches create great players, because now we have, as I said before, lateral wings of some people who are not experts, who have not knowledge to help to the kids, but our job is to provide for them on today basketball, something else, some special treatment. Of course, next job is to make player profiling, or players profiling. Which kind of player our kids can be? Or, talking about federation, how to create criteria for each position in the national team. What we need from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. So my personal experience, I'm doing like this. This is not part of Serbian Federation. This is not part of something else. So I find out that it's very important to divide basketball in four phases, four parts of the game. So this is set half-court defense, fast break or transition offense, half-court offense, and transition defense. So I'm doing for my needs, for the national team, and also for my staff, for my clubs, or some other stuff for students too, for all four phases of the game, and for all 5 positions, different stuff, what I want from them. Practically job description for position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in set defense, in set offense, in both transition parts. So fast break or transition defense. So then when you have job description, let's call it like this, of point guard, shooting guard, forward, power forward on center, it's too easy to choose players for the national team, but it's also too easy to prepare a practice plan, because you can see which kind of abilities is missing part of their basketball skill. So then as a coach, you can select, so you can be smart in selection of content of your practices, especially national teams, because in national team we have always time limitation, so no time to work 11 months. I don't know how is the situation in Lithuania with national team programs, but the federations are going to reduce more and more. So I remember on my time when I was player under 16 national team, we worked for 2.5 months together. So that time under 16 was in the end of the August. At the beginning of the June, we already started. So June, July, and almost full August, 2.5 months or more. When I was coach of Serbian national team in 2009, we had 6 weeks before the preparation to prepare for competition, and in 2015, 4 weeks. So because of financial stuff, federations are going to reduce. I'm not talking now about in-season activities, but usually because of duties in the clubs, it's just couple of camps, probably couple of tournaments during the Easter or Christmas time, nothing else. So our job is to check the past, in present moment, and looking to the future. Always we should use scientific knowledge to reduce possibility to make mistakes. Because when we are analyzing what's happened in the basketball game look like this, a lot of stuff, because basketball is very complex sport. It's not simple like cyclic sports like swimming, running. It's very, very difficult sport. So sometimes looking for that seems that it's mission impossible, that even Tom Cruise cannot do that stuff. So finding Neverland for us. Next stuff to consider is to analyze what's happened during basketball game, because this is the final destination. Like when we are using navigation system with our cars, so we should know final destination. How to know when we want to arrive if we don't know what's happened during the basketball game? So we should understand, and we should check scientific researches about movements and about activities in basketball. So you have, I don't know if you're familiar with that stuff, but there are Kinexon, Catapult softwares today which are going to follow without any problem in the real time all kinds of activities of players. Heart rate, distance, running distance, type of activities, frontal, lateral, sprinting, everything in one practice. So doing something, we should understand final destination for our players. But this is, of course, more related to players' development. But in order to select well players, we should predict which kind of skills and which kind of abilities they must have in the future in order to become, probably, if we are lucky, if we are working hard, top level players. So as you can see in the last sentence in this slide, there are 1,000 different basketball moves. So our job is to provide on development process for our players to copy those activities as much as possible in the practice. Because, as I said before, basketball is very, very complex sport. So our job is to copy a lot of stuff. Another stuff, as you can see here, you can read all the stuff and you can check it with more attention probably when you are going to see the video. So there are approximately, analysis 2018 EuroLeague, 105 high-intensity efforts per game. It's always a question for us if we are doing those stuff in the practice. So usually every 20 seconds, 21 seconds, because of fouls, because of free throws, because of timeouts, we have high-intensity efforts. It's always a question for us. Do we have that kind of efforts in our practices? Of course, not in mini basket, but from under 16, definitely is. Another stuff very, very important and very interesting is that approximately 1/3 of activities is lateral. So side to side, lateral movement, slides. Again, question, do we use 30% of our activities, lateral activities? Don't talk about running backward, back pedal or some stuff which we are probably not using enough in the practice, and then we have problem in transition defense. Probably because our players cannot run back. Probably because they have not technique to run back. So there are a lot of questions for all of us. Of course, not a few, for myself too. Then 2/3 of those movements are intense movements. So basketball is definitely high intensity interval sport. And high intensity activities are between 1 and 4 seconds or 1 and 5 second sprints. So those parts, of course, not in every single practice, but those parts and those activities must be like strawberry on the cake when you are preparing your practices. Going deeper in activities during the game, you can see that 80% of offenses are 15 seconds, that offenses between 4 and 7 seconds are 30%. If you're looking in NBA, this is something different because they have mostly 50% of the offenses between 0 and 6 seconds. So it's different. It's always question what we want to do. So those stuff are also interesting, but mostly for under 16 and over. Here we are more oriented to the young players. Another stuff which is very important is about activities. So as you can see, some scientific research showed that 92% of injuries are one-foot injuries. Basketball is definitely unilateral sport because we are using a lot of activities on one leg, except defensive rebounding and jump shot in offense. Practically all basketball activities are one leg activities. And usually injuries happen when we are going to change direction or where we are going to stop our activities. So it's not about acceleration, it's about landing and deceleration of the plays. Of course, I know I'm not talking now about mechanical injuries. Those injuries are going to happen also in the basketball, of course, but we can make stronger our players, but we can work a lot in order to avoid one-foot injuries in stopping activities and in landing activities. And mostly those activities are one-leg activities. Very important because we can do a lot of one-leg activities, of course, not just body-on drills in mini baskets too, in order to make good injury prevention program and to avoid injuries in the later part of their career. Another stuff which is not so, which is not the same all the time. So in NBA, they are running between 6.3 and 9 kilometers. In EuroLeague, a little bit less because we have 40 minutes. They are playing 40, 48. Also, that depends of the age of your team, of the way of playing, of different stuff. But that is clear that basketball players should be ready to resistance, 7.5, 8 kilometers of running with different activities during those running. Going deeper, it's clear that explosive power, especially explosive power of lower extremities, of legs, it's most important part from a conditioning point of view. So all those stuff we should consider before to start selecting players and because to think about it. Then next thing, because talent ID is vision. In which direction as a sport is going? Probably if we start to select kids when they are now 10, they will be senior players for 10 years. So which kind of basketball is going to be played for 10 years? In which direction basketball as a sport is going to be developed? Probably seems that everybody are running to the NBA. So probably for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, when today's kids are going to become senior players, 3-point line is going to be half meter away from the basket. So probably they will play not 4 quarters by 10, but 4 quarters by 12 minutes. This is important, just those stuff. Important to understand that definitely, first of all, for quarters, for game time, we need more aerobic endurance for the players as a foundation for high intensity efforts. And we will need more higher level of aerobic endurance because of recovering process in the future. But we cannot build it from under 16 to under 20. We should start building it from mini basket. So also, of course, saying that probably 3-point line is going to be on 724 like in NBA, its meaning of that is not that in mini basket we should start with push-ups. No, first of all, body core, body on drill, legs, and then arms and shoulders, because we want to have ability to score from long distance, because defenses are going to get better, and of course we should think about it. Definitely modern basketball is going to be, as is today, transition basketball, so transition in both directions. And I think first 2 parts of basketball to teach kids fast break and transition defense. Also, when you are bringing team, if you're going to get to receive a lot of easy baskets, you are finished as a coach. So it's very important to understand that stuff. Doing that stuff, we are going to improve also decision-making process. We are going to improve physical condition of the players. So this is clear that transition game should be important to teach. Going deeper in technical and tactical points, combination of inside-outside game, even today, ball pressure, so obstruction of the cutting and passing lines. Practically, we don't want to let opponent team to score from transition. You want to score offensively as much as possible, Lithuanian school, Serbian school too, but oppositely, from the defensive point of view, we don't want fast breaks. So for me, as a coach, this is my stuff, what I'm thinking. No easy shots in transition. So defensive transition is supposed to be first defensive pillar. Then no fast break points. It's related to that because of higher percentage of the points from the fast break, and no offensive rebounds, no second attempt. So after that, you can develop those stuff. Which kind of players we need? So having a lot of experience with top level coaches on FIBA, like Pešić, like Pablo Lasso, like Aito, like Pedro Martinez, a lot of people over there. When I ask them, okay, coaches, when you're looking for the players in your team, what is the first thing to look? Most of them say to me that they need players, they are choosing players who can cover minimum 2 positions. So combo players, offensively and defensively. Of course, technical knowledge, tactical knowledge, high level of coordination, speed, balance, physically ready to compete on the high level. But first of all, combo players ready to cover minimum 2 positions in offensive defense. Next step or next level of selection for them is mindset, structure of cognitive abilities, if they are smart or not, if they are ready mentally for polyvalent game, so for good decisions, especially on the top level. Then connecting with that stuff, how they can react in critical moments of the game. So error compensation. So if they can think about next move, or they will cry because of mistakes. Of course, we can build those abilities, but it's important that selecting good players, our starting point is on the higher level than with kids and with players who are not able to do that stuff. As I said before, it's take time. So minimum 10 years of extensive practice to excel in anything. There are some opposite examples like Luka Doncic, like Sabonis, like Divac, but those kind of players happens one in 50 years. Definitely not. Definitely we cannot find it in every generation. Now let's go deeper in our main topic. So basketball specific measurement system. Why and we need to do that and what we are going to use. As I said before, we should create objective specific measurement system because it's not same for basketball, handball, football, or other sport. Make standards, test standards for different age group and be connected with science. Then we should develop specific standards by age group and by position. As you can see, probably this is much more difficult than to be coach and to prepare flex offense or horns or something else. So we should finalize testing system, create testing battery, and make standardization of testing methodology. Determine the frequency of tests, which is very, very important part in youth program, especially for national federations and for national team programs. How many times per season you should test your players? I prefer to make 4 times. So first time at the beginning of preseason, second time in the end of preseason, because we're supposed to test if you made good stuff in preseason, third time in the middle of the season, and fourth time immediately in the end of the season, because they have summer time to develop their abilities. Usually, correct me if I'm wrong, that nobody is doing tests in the end of the season. And this is for young players probably most important part, because according to the test results, we know in which direction we are going to develop players during the summer when they have time, inside the national team program or inside some individual programs or clubs program. This is very important. Then to compare our today players with players in the past. We had great selection system in ex-Yugoslavia. Now we have not so good. I don't know why. After 30 years, it's not so good like 30 years ago. So then we have that database that you can compare all the results of today players with, for example, my generation, because that selection program was very good. Doing that stuff, we are going to create, as I said before, national and international standards. And of course, we can find all the resources which today are not so problematic stuff as was before. Why we are doing tests is important to see strengths and weaknesses of the players, to monitor our practice plan, to check if our practice plan is good or not. Because if we are not going to develop players' abilities, we are bad coaches. Especially with young players, they're supposed to be better in February than in September. Okay, they are competing, they have competition, but their main job is to get better year by year. They cannot be same at the beginning and at the end of the season. Probably top level players are going to be in worse condition, in bad condition in the end of the season because of game demands, because they are old, because they compete a lot. But young players, they should grow up week by week, month by month, and year by year. If not, this is not a good practice plan. So we should testing the players. We are raising the level of education of the coaches and athletes too. And of course, we can also understand injuries in basketball and trying to prevent potential injuries for our players. This is very, very, very important, and all those stuff are good. So here you can see, let's call it white testing battery for basketball players. And as you can see, I just made it for my needs. And I think that we don't need too much equipment to do those stuff. So when we are saying testing, a lot of coaches are thinking just about money. But there are a lot of tests which you can do with your teams, with your clubs, without any investment. And you can check level of your practices, monitor level of your practices, and you can check level of your players. For example, Cooper test, you need just mobile phone. suicide with ball, without the ball, Illinois test, T-test, sprint. Okay, it's better to have photo shells, but if not, you can do it with some simple equipment. Bench press, vertical jump, medicine ball throwing from seated position. So there are a lot of tests which all of us can make without money, which is very important because not all the clubs are in good conditions for that. But doing the test and preparing testing battery is very important to understand which kind of abilities are under big influence of genotype, are under big influence of mothers and fathers, or probably both lines. So as you can see on the left side of this slide, so there are skills or abilities, not skills, abilities with high influence of genotype. Morphology, so body size and constitution, speed, explosive power, precision, coordination, cognitive ability, pathological mode of behavior. In the middle, things that we can change a little bit more than previous group of abilities. So body mass, repetitive power, functional ability, balance, flexibility, cognitive characteristics. And then group of abilities with small genotype influence. Motor skills, specific habits, specific knowledge, opinion and attitude, static power. Unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately because those stuff make our job very, very difficult. All abilities important for basketball are with high influence of genotype on the left side of the screen. So this is it's clear that if we are making wrong selection at the beginning, no way to arrive at top performance. Basketball as a sport is like this, and we should understand this. Which kind of abilities we should test in our basketball testing battery? Health status first, body size and composition, biological age, which is very important because you know that biological age is not same like chronological age. There are some players 14 years old who are biologically 12. And of course, they cannot compete even with boys and girls in their age. But there are some players in under 14 who are under 16 biologically, and they are better than other kids. And we think that they are good, but then when biologically younger kids are arriving, and then they are finished. So it's very important to understand those stuff. Then aerobic capacity. Definitely basketball is an aerobic sport, but as I said before, ability to be ready to resist on high intensity interval practice or interval activities as basketball is, we should have high level of aerobic capacity. And also because of recovering, because aerobic capacity is going to increase ability to recover well, which is very important. Outside of that, the basketball is an aerobic sport. Then anaerobic power and capacity, mostly explosive power of legs, first of all, and then all the body, flexibility, muscle characteristic, biochemical monitoring. Going deeper in morphological or anthropometrical characteristic, we have four dimensions: longitude dimension, transverse body volume factor, and skin fold measurements. All tests in the schools and all tests in academies must be oriented on that stuff. So practically, which kind of anthropometric parameters I suggest you to test? As you can see here, of course, body height, body mass, wingspan, which is not in international biological program, but which is very, very important for basketball. Kawhi Leonard, player with great wingspan and with hand span. Then sitting height. Why sitting height? Because a lot of stuff our players supposed to be in defensive stance. So they're practically in sitting position. Then all other stuff, as you can see here, chronological age, foot length, muscle mass, body fat mass, which can be changed, easily with practices. So all those stuff supposed to be part of anthropometric on morphological field to select top basketball players. In the older age group, under 12 and under 14, basic test plus determining somatotype of the players expected height with the X-ray of the left hand or with some other stuff, and biological age. So, of course, there are the group of the players who are already selected in some previous level of selection. They are going closer to the national team in under 16. I think that over previous slides, skills and abilities, we should test in higher level also those stuff for under 14 level. Just a moment, sorry. Sorry, I'm on university, they're jumping here to ask me something. So body structure is next stuff. So fat content, muscle mass, bone mass, this is easy stuff to check today, but it's important to check it also. Biological age, as you can see here on the picture, easiest way to check biological age of players is to make X-ray of the left hand and to compare month by month on which age, biological age are your players. There are also some expensive hormonal tests, but it's enough really to test with just X-ray of the left hand. I don't know if you're doing that stuff in Lithuania. I'm doing it with my colleagues in university. It's not so expensive. It's probably 20 euros to test, and they are going to say to you approximately in which age are your players, and they can say something about potentially maximal height of the players. Couple of centimeters they are missing if you're testing players in under 15. So this is very important to use it. Then conditional testing. In under 14, I'm suggesting you to make all kinds of tests which you saw here. Of course, they are not doing weightlifting in that age, but we can start to test them not 1 maximal repetition, but with 5 maximal repetitions of the test. Because I think kids in under 14, we will discuss more about that on the next Wednesday. In under 14, they should know technique of weightlifting. Of course, they are not doing weightlifting as a practice, but they should be familiar with weightlifting technique, probably only with bars. 20 kilos, 10 kilos, 15 kilos, it's enough. But players must be familiar with weightlifting technique. So being familiar with weightlifting technique means that we can test them in some basic skills like bench press, like squat test or something like that. Of course, acceleration, 10-meter sprint test with measuring distance also on the 5 meters, repeated sprint ability test, 10 times 20 meters. This is more about anaerobic lactate endurance, or some core tests like line agility drills, shuttle run test. Without any problem, we can test them, and we must test them. Then for under 16 and for national team program, practically all the stuff, but we are adding some lateral tests and we are adding some explosive power tests. Because in under 16, as I said before, standards become more rigid. We are raising the level. The selection process become very, very tough. And as you can see here, we can also test the functional movement ability test. This is very, very important to use some kind of testing battery in order to prepare them. Anaerobic capacity, there are different tests, for sure. You as a federation, you have your program, your concept, how to do, but I think that I'm sure that you are testing speed, acceleration, first of all, 5, 10, 20 meters, agility with different tests, Illinois tests, zigzag test, something like that, speed endurance with rust test or 60 seconds vertical jump on the platform, different kind of power with counter movement jump, and of course, specific tests with ball. For example, you can see I made some scientific research testing the players of the national team running suicide with ball, without the ball, and with ball with strong hand and weak hand. So many different results that you can see that also technique of dribble is not good, because there is a big difference between their results without the ball and with ball, especially with weak side hand. That means that their technique it's not good. So we should go back in mini basket working on dribble on the full speed. So there are different tests here. No time to explain all of them, but just I put it here in presentation that you can check it when you have time. RAS test for running, for repeated anaerobic ability. I'm using that stuff with my players. Then aerobic capacity we are using in federation too. Not all the coaches, but when I was coach, I've used all the facilities of Republic Institute of Sport to make those tests and to have big picture about players. Then aerobic capacity, we can use ergospirometry, but we can use also simple Cooper test. Here, there are standards for Cooper test. So just to compare and to confirm how is important to have good level, I watched results of under 16 ex-Yugoslavia national team, that great generation, that was in '85. So, and I compared those results with results of the Cooper test of Iranian national team in 2017. So, Serbian national team, ex-Yugoslavian national team, in ex-Yugoslavian national team, we had all the players selected, so last lap of 16 players, all the players were over 6, except one, and that was Vlade Divac with some other abilities. In Iranian national team, when I test 24 players, I had only 2 players over level 6. So all other guys were on the lower level. So it's big difference. Having the guys 2 meters 10, like Dino Radja or some other players, running Cooper test in so high level, it's important, not only for aerobic endurance, but as I said before, as a foundation for anaerobic repetitive ability, and like ability to recover well after big effort. So this is very important to understand. Here you can see also rating, how to rate vertical jump of the players. It's easy to test. You can check. This is for under 18. So it's clear that you can check on which level are your players. Of course, probably you have some different criteria, but those tests are made by Republic Institute of Sport in Serbia. I don't know which kind of resources they used it before, but checking level of my players, I should say that this is good. So it's not so easy to change criteria year by year. You should consider to add something, but it's not clear. I'm not sure that today players can jump more than Marciulionis, Sabonis, Kurtinaitis, and other guys. I'm not sure at all. Same for the Serbian national team. Same stuff for sprint, 20 meters. I just put it for you because one of the main tasks of my presentation are criteria as standards. So I'm sharing with you secrets. No, secret standard, because we are basketball community. We should share the knowledge and we should help to each other. This is my opinion, and I will do always that stuff. And here, there are the results of ex-Yugoslavia national team and NBA player, Dino Radja. Great example. I'm going to underline his name because his results are positive. So you can see here, for example, some interesting stuff that 2 meter 10, position 5 player, 30 years ago, Cooper test 3 kilometers 400. I'm sure that in today's national team of Serbia, we cannot find even one big guy who can run this. And I'm not sure how many guards can run on that level. Then, as you can see here, 140 kilos bench press, power clean 140 kilos, 400 meters, 55 seconds running. I think that Dino Radja, if you have the player like him today, he can play easily in NBA earning $150 million per season, not per season, in contract. So you cannot find so many guys, especially if you're combining those stuff with his excellent skill. So then another test, but we have no time to discuss too much about that. I already shared with you some ability of players to test and some tests to check them. Also, there are a lot of new techniques and new laboratory testings. I think that national team players or some national academy players must be tested. So then we should have big picture about their conditioning, about their situation, and also about direction when to go with them. So because we need tests not to put results of the test in the box, but we need tests to check their performance, to check our practice plan, and to see in which direction we should develop them. It's clear, but I'm not sure how many federations or how many clubs are doing that stuff. Muscle characteristic to check muscle type. This is expensive. We didn't make that stuff in national team because limitation, but this is also good stuff, probably not for all the players, but probably for top prospect players, stuff in order to improve practice part for them. As well as biochemical monitoring today is not difficult, it's not expensive to check also level of the practice during the level of the players during the practice in order to decide about breaks, about rest periods, about days off in the season or in the week. You can use all those stuff. Of course, there is a different timing for different tests. There are some stuff to check daily, weekly, monthly, and periodically. But that depends of resources and first of all of knowledge of the coaches. Why? Because basketball is very complex sport. As you can see here, we need balance, we need spacing, we need timing. So you can see 3 pictures of which are going to confirm that stuff. It's a very complex sport. We need dynamic balance or ability to quickly establish lost balance. As you can see here in the left picture, verticality of Klay Thompson jump shot, probably best shooter if you're looking just for shooters. Klay Thompson, of course, Steph Curry, 2 best shooters in the world probably. Then you can see position on the body position of Lamar Odom in this picture here. So contact, out of balance position, look for his right ankle, and he should control the ball and he should make right decision. So basketball is really, really very complex sport. Because of that, we should understand all the aspects of basketball and consider all the aspects of basketball we're checking and we're choosing players for national team, especially. Psychological part of the basketball is also very important because basketball is very demanding sport from psychological point of view. So which kind of psychological abilities we're supposed to test or we're supposed to have? First of all, we should see final destination. So top level basketball players must possess all abilities from this slide. So high level of emotional stability, absence of neurotic futures, tendency for domination, top players, existence of sport achievement motives, so they should be they should be motivated to do something. They should be aggressive, but of course with control. They should be smart. They should have high level of perception, so peripheral vision. They should be ready to work in the group, in the team, so social part of basketball. Strong ego, sometimes problem for the coaches, but all top players are with very stable in that stuff. They are with very, very strong ego and strong self-centered. So self-confidence and self-control as a part of them. Here there are some of tests. We cannot come deeper inside that story. I'm just sharing with you some tests which I made with under 16 national team player, not me, my colleague from university. So the test of general intellectual ability, this is a progressive matrix test, which is going to say to us something about peripheral vision and about how they are seeing the court, if they can make decisions and they can recognize stuff. Brick test, famous old test, but very effective. So how they can see the court from different angles and situations from different angles. Same stuff for perceptual ability test, F1. Very simple for players to do and very simple to decide about the result. Then next thing to test, basketball stuff. So of course, all the coaches, but I think national team must prepare criteria for national team standards. So what we want from them, if they are in defensive stance or not, first of all, how they are going to position themselves in the defense. Then we can divide as the coaches, all side positioning, help side positioning. And of course, by position, flat triangle, you want to be aggressive, deny first pass, or open deny first pass, or pack line defense. Those stuff are depends also of coaching stuff. Which kind of basketball you want to play? It's famous that when you are facing Lithuanian team, you are playing fast break, you are playing strong defense, and you are shooting a lot of 3-point shots. So it's not same preparing game against you and against Spain. But from the other side, for you as a national federation, of course, or clubs who supposed to select and develop players for the national team, probably all the stuff should be aligned. So you should choose some part. It's not easy because, of course, not all the coaches can choose same coaching philosophy. But generally, you should pretend something. You should select players with some criteria from your side, or your side. So how they are doing handicap situation. If you want to play fast basketball, you should check ability of players to run and to make decision in handicap situation, both defensively and offensively. So transition defense, transition offense. How they are doing off-ball defense, on-ball defense, close out. Probably one of the most important defensive skill in today's basketball is close out. So my opinion is that I'm doing every day, in every single practice, individual practice, team practice, I'm doing some kind of close out. So jumping to the ball and close out, or transition from off-ball defense to on-ball defense, for me, are two most important defensive skills for today's basketball. Of course, after that, we are adding pick and roll, all other stuff, but if you are able to do those stuff, you can be able to do also different kind of pick and roll defense or off-ball screen defense or something like that. So box out, of course, especially because for box out, you don't need some special gift. Box out is just habit. But saying just habit, of course, those things which we are calling just habit, just energetic part of basketball are too difficult to teach players. But from the other side, even not so talented players or players without some special gift from other stuff, they can be effective in moving without the ball, in boxing out, in going on offensive rebound, because we don't need special gift from God to be effective and to be efficient with those skills. So because of that, for the national team, also choose some players who are able to do those stuff. Offensive skills, wide range of offensive skills. Of course, here we should make criteria by position. Probably we have some other session next time, not next Wednesday, but I hope this is not going to be just my first and second session with Lithuanian coaches, because I enjoy to compete with your country and of course to share my ideas with you. So different criteria for offensive skills. Ball handling, holding the ball, catching the ball, ball protection, how to get open, moving without the ball, passing skills, how many passing skills, for example, you want that your point guard can use in under 16. I made 5 passing techniques. In today's basketball, for example, you cannot have point guard without pocket pass or off the dribble pass. So all top players, Šarūnas, Teodosic, and other guys, Lithuanian, Spain, Croatian, whatever, they cannot be effective in pick and roll game without pocket pass. So off the dribble pass. My opinion that we should start teach kids from the first moment. If you start teach them in 10, in 12, probably in under 16, they will be familiar with that kind of pass. So one of criteria for me, for example, just to confirm that stuff, to choose players for the national team, point guard national team, to be familiar with 5 passing techniques. When I'm saying be familiar, use 5 passing techniques in the games, in the clubs, in the national team games. Of course, you are working on some stuff, but in national team, not so big gap area of improvement because of time limitation. And after that, I prepared something which I think that is very interesting. This is something that you cannot find in the book. I call that complex abilities. So ability to learn quickly, as I already said. Very, very important sign of talent. Work ethic, because, okay, we had so many talented players, but on the first meeting on the national team, I'm saying, okay, I will choose players who are talented for work. So work ethic. Of course, basketball IQ. As I said before, ability to cover more positions, so different skills for more positions. Then physical influence of skills. Of course, if you are choosing player for position 2 and 3, physical part is more dominant than for position 1. If you're choosing player for position 5, it's more dominant physical factor than for position 1, 2. So it's up to us to create criteria. Then another stuff which is not visible even in complex, in advanced statistics in today basketball is efficiency in game situations. So how they're making decision making, how you can measure angle of the pass, how you can measure angle of the screen, how you can measure court vision. We can measure as a coaches or our coaching staff. So think about those staff who are not pick and roll, who are not flex, who are not jumping ability, who are not something else. So think how we can recognize, because as you know, there are some players who can be best in the court scoring 6 points per game, but doing a lot of great stuff for the team. So don't be open-minded. Don't be so scientifically oriented and so numbers oriented, because there are some coaches who are coming in the locker room and saying to players, listen, we are down because they are shooting better than us for 2. Okay. And think, jump in the player's shoes. This information is not relevant for the players. This information is information for the coaches. They will say, okay, how can I shoot better in the second quarter or in the third quarter? We as a coaches, we should say to them what to do. So prepare better screen, be better in getting open, receive the ball with low legs, use jump stop or 2 contact stop. So those kind of information we should share with them in order to expect from them to make good decision making on the court. So those stuff are complex abilities. It's not so easy to measure them, but this is part of coaching job. Then another stuff very important as a motivational part of basketball is that all top players are doing better than other players on the practice. So they should know minuses and pluses and be ready to improve. I'm always talking about Novak Djokovic, who is probably one of the best athletes in the world in the last 5 years. So once happened, just let me share with you one story, true story. I was walking or running in some garden in Serbia, and over there, head coach of tennis national team, Serbian national team, has tennis court. So just a couple of days after losing the tournament in Paris, it was, 5-6 years ago, day after, Novak Djokovic arrived to him to ask for some advices. So I was over there drinking tea with that friend of mine, tennis coach, and Novak Djokovic arrived, so that man introduced me. He said, professor, basketball coach, blah, blah, blah. I saw him first time in my life. After 5 minutes, Novak Djokovic, #1 tennis player in the world, who won I don't know how many titles, he asked me, listen, coach, what are you looking for my matches? I say, yes, of course. Do you have something to say to me that I can move better laterally, blah, 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 whatever? So he's asking, #1 player in the world, is asking some professor and some basketball coach about his improvement. So that means that he's highly motivated to improve himself. Even being #1 in the world means nothing. Means for him that he can get better. This is a very, very important quality of players, especially if you can recognize in young players that ability, that can be really great. Another stuff connected with all those stuff, quickness or speed of tactical decisions. It's related to decision making. And of course, we can improve that stuff through the specific. It's too easy to say than to do. I know that there are a lot of questions which we made here, but I think that I find also some answers. And it's clear that winners are not born. We are going to make them. Recognize talent and do some stuff. Here is some list of abilities which NBA scouts are looking for when choosing the players as a prospect player for NBA. So general information, all the stuff, basketball stuff, but it's very important I put that stuff because they care of personality. When they are coming in Europe to check European championships, to check Final 8 of EuroLeague, or to check games in Lithuanian, Serbian championship, they are not looking for basketball performance. They already know because that is visible on YouTube. They are looking for personality of the players. If they are taking responsibility, if they have self-confidence, how they are reacting in the critical moment of the game, how they are acting on the change, how they are acting when they are playing bad, how they are acting when they are playing well, how they are acting when some teammate is going to do something wrong on the court. So all those stuff are very important part, but all those stuff are not so related just to the basketball. Here you can see so many stuff, basketball skills, but more or less they are checking, first of all, one-on-one with ball, one-on-one without the ball, offense, defense. They're starting from that stuff because, as you know, coaches, it's not difficult to teach kids flex offense, but it's very difficult to teach them how to pass ball with weak side hand. It's very difficult to teach them when to make shot fake, when to make drive fake. It's very difficult to teach them to shoot with left hand against opponent if they are right-handed. So many stuff not related only to basketball. It's very important. So we are almost in the end of this session. Good timing. So some kind of answers on the question which we made at the beginning. So I think that we should start selection immediately. So as soon as kids are putting their foot on the basketball court, we should check if they have ability, as I said before, if they are learning quickly, if they are imitating well, showed move, and if they are going to recognize situation to use those skills on the game-like situation. So this is about decision making. This last stuff, it's related to individual tactic, because as you know, we can divide basketball in individual technique and tactic. So one-on-one game, then group technique, all kind of collaborations with 2, 3, 4 players, and team tactic. So how to play 5-on-5 if you cannot recognize well situation in one-on-one. Some old ex-Yugoslavian coaches are saying, if you know to play one-on-one full court, you can play basketball. I think they are right, because it's really too easy to play 5-on-5 defense, half court, than to play one-on-one full court. From conditioning point of view, same stuff. One-on-one full court, probably most difficult drill, basketball drill ever. So it depends how you play. Then we should understand that talent is something, it's not only always visible for us, and that talent is ability, or it's group of abilities from different fields, from different areas. Check, because some players are talented from one stuff, or from other stuff, no. Then, of course, understand that only well-planned, appropriate practice can develop selected players for top performance in the future. Next week, we will talk everything about that. And of course, that selection process can be realized only by experts from different areas and different fields in collaboration, of course, with basketball coaches, because we have final touch. We can decide in the end, as we can decide for our wives and for like women, hopefully they are deciding about, it's something that you have in the stomach. Feeling about some player, which you cannot explain well, but that your feeling is coaching eye. It's like strawberry on the cake. You cannot base your selection criteria only on your feeling. Must be, but not only. This is very, very important, because basketball is not so easy to measure. So selection criteria, which kind of fields? Morphological area, so body type and constitution. Then physical stuff, so conditioning, but which kind of abilities? Abilities which are straightly connected to basketball demand. So coordination, speed, anaerobic endurance, explosive strain of lower limbs. Basic stuff to select. And our testing battery should be connected with basketball demands, of course. Next, psychological area. We already touched a little bit, which kind of psychological profile supposed to be top basketball player. Tests made by doctors, basketball skills level, general, overall for basketball, ability to play basketball, if they know all the stuff, passing, shooting, getting open, moving without the ball, and then also by position. And then, as I already mentioned, complex abilities. So, which I already said before. So there are some abilities. I find that stuff on internet, probably you saw it. Outside of everything what I said before, 10 things that require zero talent on the right side of the slide. Being on the time, work ethic, effort, body language, energy, attitude, passion, being coachable, doing extra, being prepared. Tell me, coaches, if some of you doesn't like those abilities. But for those things or those abilities, really, we need zero talent. So think about that. And also choose for your teams and for national team, couple of players who are with those things, abilities, attitudes, whatever. Because without that stuff, nothing to do. I know that you as a country, you have culture of basketball, culture for high volume and high intensity of the practice, but think also about it. So all those stuff which I say to you today, it's mix of basketball, academic, and my personal experience. And I think that we never stop, we never should stop learning, because know we more, it's more problem for us, of course, in some point of view, but definitely knowledge is going to reduce possibility to make mistakes, especially in talent identification process, because we cannot be sure and say, okay, there are 100 pages about talent ID, just follow that, you will never miss, you will have 20 national team and 10 NBA players from that program. It's not like this. But more we know, we are going to reduce mistakes and we are going to eliminate X factor. So think about that and think how to develop your system. Because as a coaches, especially for the national team coaches who are choosing the players for the national team, who are making talent ID process, it's synthesis of the skills, like pilot in the airplane. But if you miss some bottom, it's a big problem. So, of course, we as a coaches, we should ask the question, why, which, where, when, how. It's more about personal questionnaire. Some of us can see this iceberg, but not all of us can see what is under the water. So we are going to face a lot of problems doing talent identification process, but more we know, we will reduce possibility to make mistake. This is very important. And of course, in order to avoid to being dinosaurs, we should adapt or die. Of course, not die in real sense of that word, but die in the basketball world, because we should adjust our knowledge, we should update our knowledge, we should learn all the time, because today basketball is not same like basketball 20 years ago. And basketball for 10 years, basketball in the future, it's not going to be same like today's basketball. So think about it, try to create vision about basketball in the future in order to update your criteria for player selection. Because don't select players according to today's criteria, try to think what is going to happen in the future. Because probably for 10 years we will have all the players with the higher possibility to play top level. Even today, it's big improvement comparing 10, 20, 50 years, mostly from conditioning point of view, but think how we can develop basketball as a sport and how we can prepare our today's kids for the basketball which they are going to play probably for 10 years. Outside of dinosaurs, there are some plants and animals surviving dinosaurs time, so we should think about it. And of course, perfect timing, I already put my watch here. Coaches, you are the winning difference, because players are like birds. They are eating something from your hand and then they are putting something on our head. So we as a coaches, we should be ready to sacrifice. We should understand that we should give much more than to receive, but we should be satisfied in the story if we create, if we choose right players, and if those players they will have some important basketball career on the top level. So that was always in good timing, which I prepared for you today. Hopefully you will get a lot of useful information from my side. And of course, now it's time to to ask questions. Be free, don't shame, don't hesitate to ask whatever you think that you can ask. And before to start the session, so I can now stop sharing this presentation. Okay, so coaches, also after this session, between today and next week's session, you can ask me something. My email is Nenad Trunič, my name and family name, nenadtrunic@gmail.com. So feel free to ask me whatever you want. So now I'm ready for the questions.
So thank you, Nenad, for a very, very interesting lecture. And I'm sure that we got a lot of interesting things and a lot of smart ideas. And you are a real professional in this field. And
thank you very much.
I am very happy for this lecture. So maybe our coaches, somebody has some questions. We got some questions before the seminar, but you know, you already answered it. So for example, what is the direction the basketball is going? What will the game look after 10 years? Thomas is asking.
Yep.
So maybe you can comment it some words.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for positive feedback. I'm happy if that really happened. And I'm sure that also completing with next week will be full picture of that problem. So in which direction basketball as a sport is going? As more as possible high intensity, as we can see today also. So players who can be able to cover not only 2 but more positions, because as you can see now today basketball also position 4 is probably second best passer in the team. So also big guys, just looking before in the past, Sabonis, Divac, and now Jokic. He is better playmaker than most of the point guards in NBA. So to find the players physically be able to do also stuff from, let's say, other positions job description. That's mean polyvalent players. How to develop them? This is another question. That's mean that we don't need to do specialization by position early, and that we to left talented kids to do everything in basketball. Not only big guy under the basket shooting just hook shot. Of course, talking more about technical and tactical stuff, continuous change, I already say, between inside and outside position, continuous ball reversal, and ability to make different kind of scores, different skills to score. Because if you have today, if you're looking, for example, now for position 2, okay, he's supposed to read pick and roll, he's supposed to score from fast break, he's supposed to use off-ball screen. So a lot of stuff to do. In the future is going to be more on the higher level of intensity, because probably development of sports science is going to develop more physically players. And this is difference even today and comparing 20 years old basketball. I just watched a couple of days ago one great game between Cibona and Žalgiris. When Sabonis, Kurtinaitis play, if you're looking that game, it was like slow motion. But from the other side, I find out that 14 offenses in the row, 7 Cibona and 7 Žalgiris, they didn't miss shots. That means that technical part of basketball, probably shooting technique outside of defenses, was probably better, because probably coaches on that time, they take care more about technical shooting than conditioning. Today, if somebody is scoring 6 free throws, it's to celebrate, which is wrong. So think about all those stuff, because definitely basket is going to be high intensity more and more, but coaches don't consider technique, because there are players like Dejan Bodiroga, like Jokic, some guys who are physically ridiculous for top basketball, but they're still playing on the highest possible level, not Bodiroga. Now I'm thinking about Jokic. So don't forget that basketball is sport of technique. Of course, we should push physically stuff, and basketball of good decision making. Probably decision making is something that we should put on the lower level, from mini basket to the higher level, in order to prepare our players for basketball in the future.
Thank you, Nenad. Next question is how to identify basketball IQ level in early ages?
I already answered. So if they are learning well, quickly, if they can imitate well, if they are using learned skills in game-like situation. So let's say that you are working on dribble. You're dribbling around the cones. You're starting with kids using between the legs dribble. Next drill, 101. Talented player will immediately use the dribble between the legs in 101. Less talented after 6 months, bad player, never. So it's very clean to understand this basketball, how they understand court vision and how they are using skills from the practice. And probably top players, if they're finding some solution which coach never showed to them on the practice. That can happen, but this is really top talent and is not going to happen every day.
Thank you, Nenad. Next one. How many years, Carol is asking, how many years do you divide guys into the positions?
We are starting, in my personal opinion, supported by scientific research, that in under 16 generations, so after under 14, we are starting strictly. Of course, is clean, even in mini basket, who is going to be point guard, who is going to be big. But we are making this specialization by position more because of practice plan. So before, they are everybody doing everything. Even in under 16, they are doing everything, but adding something specific by positions, or as a minimum by inside, outside players. So in under 16, when they are 15 years old, because we have 2 years group.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, coaches, who has any questions more?
Hello. I would like to ask.
Hello, my friend.
First of all, Professor, thank you for a high quality lecture. Also, thank you for Federation for this opportunity. And I would like to ask you about mini basket. Does the player, especially in the primary school, should focus only for one sport? I mean, basketball, or is it better to try 2-3 sports? I mean, from under 6 and they're 10 years old. What is your opinion?
So, of course, it's common opinion for all the experts, Andres, you know that because you are in the science, different sports, and basically it's better when we are saying different sports, try to move on foundation sports. Foundation sports are athletic, gymnastic, swimming. So if they are able to do those stuff, those move, let's say fundamental movement skills, after that it's not difficult for them to start dribbling, passing and doing that stuff. Another stuff which is very important to consider when thinking about practically, let's say, sport activities of kids is that before the age of 7, players cannot get well objects coming from the sagittal plane. So in the age of 7, average kids, they cannot catch the ball because they cannot receive the ball, from sagittal plane. So ball passing is practically forbidden. Not for all the kids, but you can see so many stuff, some parents or some coaches working with some mini baskets team, passing ball to the kids, they are doing this and ball is coming to their head. It's not because they are not talented, but because this is not natural for all the kids. So absolutely answer. Different sports, especially those sports which I mentioned. So gymnastic, athletic, or track and field, and also some martial arts, because are very important because they are teaching basic coordination, eye-hand coordination. So absolutely different sport. Practically, my opinion is that from age of 12, we are starting with serious basketball. Before they can play basketball, but they can play also other sports.
Thank you very much. And my second question is about culture of winning. When it's time to start to tell for the players and to focus and speak with the parents that to win is important. In your presentation, you mentioned a few times that it's important to create culture of winning. But when it's time about that to speak,
So I think that there are 2 approaches on basketball techniques, and this is related also to winning mentality. So First of all, there are countries, I don't know correctly if I'm wrong, I know that you're oriented to American basketball a lot. So over there, they are thinking about speed of execution. They don't care too much about technique. Okay? I'm thinking, and I'm old school, I don't know how you call that, Russian school, whatever, Yugoslavian school, that first of all is proper technique. So proper execution, then repetitions, and then intensity. So I think that we can pretend from the kids on the practice to do something with high intensity, just simple stuff like passing, like dribbling, like shooting, only when we are satisfied with level of techniques. So this is related to your question. So when we are satisfied with technique, we can start with competitive drill. That can be an age of 10 if they are familiar with some skills. But some skills, we cannot pretend them to compete if they are doing bad technically. So my opinion is that we are going to build or to create winning mentality using a lot of competitive drills and do it from under 12 for sure. Doing that stuff, we are working on high intensity of practice because kids are competing. When they are competing, they are doing high intensity. Even old people. If you are saying to me and to Rolandas, okay, let's play basketball, but if you're saying who is going to pay drink, loser is going to pay, probably we will make full sprint. So same with kids. So games, as more as possible, competitive games, even from under 12, but using skills which they can do well, which can they do technically correctly. So I think from under 12, in that way, we can bring winning mentality. After that, jumping in the national team, showing the pictures, showing the video, and showing the culture of basketball as you have in Lithuania, I think that you don't need to work too much on that because that is coming from families, from basketball schools, from different countries. Today we have general problem, because today kids are too much in comfort zone because they are spending 6 hours on mobile phone and they are everybody same, from Iran to Lithuania, Sweden, America. This is a big problem for us, but kids who are good, they will say, okay, I don't want to spend 6 hours on mobile phone, 2 hours, I will do basketball. Still they have time. So competitive mentality and leadership is something that you can create from under 12 using a lot of competitive drills, but don't jumping in the trap to ask to compete in the skills which they are doing better. This is my opinion.
Thank you.
Nenad,
yes,
I would like to ask one question, but first of all, I would like to say one bigger thank you for your sharing your knowledge, your experiences. It was really great. And I have one very simple and practical questions. When you or your coaches understood that Jokic is a very talented player and he can play in NBA, at what age? And the second part of the same question, perhaps you remember his statistics when he was about 14, 15 years.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think that there is some specific age that you can say that they are special, gifted players. So we're supposed to be lucky too. You know, as you know the story, for example, about Jokic, he's supposed to sign contract with Barcelona, scouts of Barcelona, and his agent already decide everything about the contract. He played some bad game against some team when they were in Belgrade. So they decide to not sign the contract. After 2 months, he signed in NBA. So you never can be sure. But monitoring their performance from under 16, you can recognize some special gift. I think that in that age you already can recognize, but it's very important for development of those guys to work on the weak sides of their performance. You know, as we are saying, you know, chain is weak as the weakest part of the chain. Same stuff for the players, because if they have some gift, they will develop that gift also probably with less practices. But our job is to strengthen the weak sides, probably physical part, probably left hand, probably shooting off the screen, depending of the position. So I don't think that we can say in which age we can say this guy is going to be NBA player. You cannot say, because we have examples, Nemanja Bjelica, who never played for youth national teams. Think about it. Nobody recognized in him some interesting guy. And we had some guys who were probably, you remember, Miljanovic, guard who played in Lithuania in 2009. He was super player, winner of Final 8 of EuroLeague with 2 years older group. He never arrived on that level because physically he remained ridiculous as he was in under 16. There are some examples from my experience. For example, I'm saying the name, probably you know them, Nemanja Dangubic, who played in Partizan Belgrade. I selected him for the national team under 16 just because of his physical abilities. But technically and tactically, he's almost same now after 10 years like 10 years ago. This is bad thing made by his coaching staff. So physically, he was faster in T-test, faster in running backward than half of the team running forward. Think about it. So it's because of that I choose him. And when Coach Ivkovic asked me, okay, Nenad, why you choose him? I say, because of that, because he's Ferrari, he's not bicycle. But unfortunately, he didn't get better in some technical stuff, in shooting, in using screen, and he remained excellent defender. Instead to be probably NBA player doing 2-3 stuffs as a job description for position 2. So I cannot answer to that question because I don't know. No, I cannot be sure. Thank you.
Thank you. More questions, guys? So, any questions? Okay, so we are very grateful, Nenad, for your lecture. Now that our coaches received very interesting information, and they will use it in future for finding new talents, and they will remember you by good words. Yeah, you will be our teacher in finding new talents. So thank you very much. We finished for today, and we are waiting for next lecture. It's in a week. Yeah, next Thursday we meet again. We got a lot of questions, but not for today lecture, for next lecture on Thursday. So we are waiting for you next week.
Thank you very much. It was really my pleasure, and hopefully we can meet on the court in Lithuania on some clinic, because it's always better to exchange opinions also on the court, and especially because when we are organizing on-court clinic, we can discuss about basketball 24 hours. We have not time limitations. So really, it was my big pleasure. Hopefully, you will use a lot of information from my presentation. I wish you all the best. Stay healthy, be positive, and see you next week at the same time.
Same to you, Nenad. Same to you.
Federation, another time, regards from the FIBA Europe Coaching Department, and see you next week at the same time. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.